Brandon Crow watching from Hockey Canada. Writes in and he says, my wife and her two sisters all played NCAA Division I hockey. They attribute it to waiting around that chute as kids and using those prairie oysters as hockey puck. Shooting them for the dog. Here's
Bingo!
one. All the raw testicles that I collected one day, I put them in a margarine container. Remember the old Imperial margarine that had the purple crowns around it? I put them all in there, and I took them to a party. A bush party. You've been there, Moose. You weren't at that one, but you've been to them. And I was going to cook them. I was going to cook them and make people eat them and not tell them what they were till after. But it didn't matter because Philip Kenyon took one, popped it in his mouth, crunched it raw. And he was smiling, and the blood ran down.
And he knew what it was?
I will never forget. He knew what it was. Philip Kenyon.
That was Fear Factor before there was Fear Factor with Joe Rogan.
I know. Beer might have been involved. But the next time that we're driving to Montana, I'll show you exactly where it is because a lot of stuff went down at that site. A lot of stuff. I'm not going to go any further, but just remind me later. I'll tell you about the bikers that were on their way back from Sturgis from the rally that stopped at our party.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show. How about that?
Hi, everybody. It's the RP Show, and wait till you get a load of this. Coming at you live on YouTube. We may or may not be on Game Plus TV today, but they're telling me for sure tomorrow on a Football Friday. But we're back in the Great White North. That is Canada. Specifically Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and the Golden Ticket Sports Center here in Moose Jaw. It's our summer home, and we don't have Moose for a long time today. He's got his own things going on in Toronto, so he joins us from Toronto. Moose, I'm going to dispense with any of the things, and we're going to get right down to business. Are you cool with that, with the quick six show topics here? Baby. But yeah, we got to go. Moose is taking off here right away, so we're jumping right into this. What we do, everybody, the quick six show topics of importance to me. We can't get through them all with Darren. Coming up later, Taylor Shire from Post Media, the Regina Leader Post, will be with us in hour one, and AJ Jakubec, the voice of the Ottawa Redblacks, TSN Ottawa. But we start with this. Point one of the quick six show topics. The Florida Panthers are returning to the Stanley Cup final. The reigning champions beat the Carolina Panthers 5-3 last night to win the Eastern Final in 5. Florida will play the winner of the West Final. Dallas, Edmonton meet tonight in Texas. The Stars will host game 5, needing a win to extend the series. So before we get into all, the game last night was not that exciting. Carolina jumped out to a 2-0 lead. Panthers got serious, came back and won it. Bob's your uncle. They wouldn't touch the Eastern Conference trophy that Bill Daly presented. Boom, 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 boom. What I want to talk about with you is what's blowing up my phone today. Fans, hockey, people saying, what do you think about Paul Maurice not joining the handshake line? Him and Rod Brindamore, the Carolina coach, shook hands on their own. Paul was asked about it afterwards. He's like, we don't belong in the player handshake line. That's for the players. They just waged the war. We got all these guys in tracksuits and players don't even know who they are. That's for the players. I have thoughts, but you're here as the co-host. So what are yours on that instance last night?
Yeah, it's funny because Paul Maurice has become, one of, every hockey fan, I say every hockey fan, but he's become a favorite among hockey fans. He's become this treasure of quotes and great quotes. And I've been a massive fan of Paul Maurice for a while, just the way he thinks the game and thinks life. And this is an instance of when your intentions are good and you explain what's going on, it's hard to argue with his logic. I mean, he's so genuine and from the heart when he says this, and it's like, man, he makes me believe that this is such a great thing. Now, I'm in the camp that I love seeing the coaches go through the handshake line against some of the top players. I see John Cooper, talking to some of the top players, and that means something. Do I think all those coaches need to go through? Probably not. The head coaches, I think there's a place in the handshake line for the head coaches. I really do. But I also, it's hard to argue with his logic, and he's trying to kind of change the game and leave his legacy on it by maybe stopping the coaches going through the handshake line.
Craig Campbell checking in from the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto says, belated congratulations on show number 1,500 with thousands more in the future. Thank you, Craig. This today is episode number 1,503. Rich in Edmonton writes in and says, fear not, RP. Moose did a stand-up job yesterday in your absence. Great job, Moose, by the way. We only got Darren for about 4 or 5 more minutes. Here's the thing, though. Number one, I'm maturing rapidly, Craig, at the Hockey Hall of Fame. You'll be happy to know, because this is the first thing I thought. Why does everybody care about where Brind'Amour and Paul Maurice shake their hands? Who cares? Number two, I was in Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay at the end of round one when John Cooper and Paul Maurice went through the player handshake line. That was 2 series ago, so why is this different? Just go with it, Rod. And that's our poll question today for EMJ Marketing. EMJ Marketing will provide the perfect keynote speaker for your event. Check out their all-star roster at emjmarketing.com and then look up Joe. Should the coaches go through the handshake line, the players' handshake line, it's 51%, 49%. It's swinging back and forth. It's like polarizing. But enough about that. I don't know why everybody cares. They do. We've addressed it. Let's move on to this. I've had a lot of people say to me, because I've been traveling, man. I'm back in Canada. I'm loving it. I have my first Tim's of the summer, the first of many. There's a big Stanley Cup in the lobby of the Pedersen Airport in Toronto. You might have seen it. You live there. It's a big deal here. The games are on all the televisions and every restaurant and every furniture store and every department store you go by. It's all about hockey, hockey, hockey. And so everybody's talking about it. And the one thing, Darren, is this. People are asking me, when's the last time there's been back-to-back teams meet in the Stanley Cup final? I honestly thought it was the Islanders and Oilers, but it's not. It's the Penguins and Red Wings, 08-09. And all I want to say about that is, what if you're the Stars? The NHL actually put out a graphic, said, here's the history of back-to-back. They're just looking ahead. But if I'm Dallas, I'm a little pissed off going, hi, we're still here. And in a conference final, that is enough motivation, I would say, to potentially swing a game or a series even. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I hope they're using this as bulletin board material, because it's fantastic. And tonight's game will be good. I'm hearing from Oilers fans that are nervous and all the rest. But yeah, I mean, everybody's just decided it's Florida, Edmonton, and the Stanley Cup. Hey, I'm included in that. I said yesterday, let's start talking about that series, because that's the Stanley Cup final. But if you're in Dallas, yeah, that's enough to light a fire for sure.
See this, boys? They're already counting us out. Oh, my God, I would be using that. And then I saw you and Jason Gregor talking about Zach Hyman yesterday. Listen, I'm going to go out on a limb right now and pick Dallas to win tonight. Let's get our picks out of the way now, because you're taking off here right away. What is your pick?
Oilers tonight.
Yeah, they're going to end today. That's what you think?
Yeah.
So you don't think there will be any motivation? The Zach Hyman injury, not that big a deal, and there won't be motivation on the Stars side because of this? Or what makes you pick the Oilers?
The Zach Hyman thing's a big loss, but they have so many guys who have stepped up in key moments. I think they'll be able to overcome it. It won't be an issue.
Okay, there's our picks. It's quick and dirty. Cheap and dirty with the Moose. He's got a role. He's got stuff going on this afternoon, which we fully support from the audience, Darren. Mark in Melford says, welcome back to Canada, Rod. Thank you. It feels good to be here. Randy from Winnipeg says, players only should shake hands. Jeff, the Stampeders fan, says the entire handshake line is antiquated. I wouldn't care. Jason in Red Deer says the Stanley Cup at Pedersen is the only cup the Leafs will see for a while, I think. Ooh. Choosing violence. Rich in Edmonton says this Oiler fan is 100% not discounting the Stars. BW writes in and says, howdy from Redwater. It's too hot today. Oh, my God. Try South Florida. This here is the perfect climate here right now, Moose. You know that. I went through Toronto yesterday. I said, crap weather. Raining there. Here it's sunny, 27, 28 Celsius. It couldn't be better. Ryan checking in from upstate New York. You're rolling. Taylor Shire's coming in next. We're going to talk Stanley Cups and CFL. You got about 20 seconds. Any last thoughts to your adoring public, Moose?
No, it's good to see you back in Canada, and enjoy the rest of the show. I'm glad I checked.
Okay. Bye, Moose. I left all these clothes up here. I got my Winnipeg Jets hoodie on. Everybody loves it. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th. With special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Hour one of the RP Show is brought to you by CoolBet Canada. Always the best odds at CoolBet. Use promo code RP200 to claim your welcome double bet bonus up to $200 at coolbet.com. Speaking of cool, the coolest guy in the newspaper business joins us. It's not a long list, Taylor, but you are the coolest.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a few guys ahead of me in terms of that.
I don't know. From the Regina Leader Post, Taylor here. He covers the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which we'll get into the CFL in a moment. But we're having a fun Stanley Cup playoff discussion. The Panthers have moved on. Maybe tonight the Oilers do if they beat Dallas in Dallas. Taylor, what's been your take of the Stanley Cup playoffs, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, to be honest, they've been very entertaining. for those that know me, and you see behind me, I cheer for the Montreal Canadiens a little bit. So was disappointed to see them lose out. Was excited to see them make the playoffs, but kind of expected them not to go too far. But to me, it's been a very entertaining playoff first 3 rounds so far. The Stanley Cup final looks to be a repeat of last year, unless Dallas can pull off a comeback, which I don't see them doing against a very strong Edmonton team, and a team that I think might even be better than last year. However, now without Zach Hyman, it'd be hard to say that that they're going to go out and beat the Panthers in the Cup final if they do reach there. But yeah, I've been very entertained. Not too many series that you can't turn on at any moment and be entertained, right?
Well, as you know, what we do here, this is, we're approaching season 7. It's episode number 1503 today. It's just a fun coffee discussion, talking sports every day. That's why people like it. And what I got into with Moose last segment was what I'm going to get into with you now. Couple things. Paul Maurice. I don't know why it's such a big deal, but it seems to be to everybody that him and Rod Brindamore didn't go through the player handshake line last night. That's just something that in Canada they're going to debate. Who cares? He did go through the player handshake line in round 1 with John Cooper. I was there. The poll question today is, should the coaches go through? I'm like, do it or don't. I don't know why it's a big deal, but what's your take on that? Latest buzz in the NHL.
Yeah, and I liked Paul Maurice's answer when he was talking post game, because he was saying the players go to battle against the players, and they don't need to shake the assistant equipment manager's hand after a series, or the trainer that they would have never interacted with or gone to battle with. The head coaches, though, I still think there's a gamesmanship between the coaches and the players, that there is a relationship there, and it's nice to shake a guy's hand because you've battled against him all series and planned against him all series, and maybe not liked what he's done to some of your players in the series, but then you go and you have that sort of mutual respect shown after. But that was kind of what Paul was talking about, where he didn't want to have everybody come. So I think, yes, the head coaches, maybe the assistants too, but when you get all these guys in track suits, as he said, some of the players don't even know who they are, and not, they're obviously, Paul said they have a big part in the team, but they don't necessarily have a big part in how the game is played between that 60 minutes. They do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So, yeah, I'm kind of on the fence on it. I see where he's coming from, where he doesn't want to, make it about him or the coaches. I think it's a sacred thing between the players. You don't see the camera panning to one player shaking an equipment manager's hand, right? It's all about the players, the 2 captains, the 2 guys who have gone to battle, the 2 goalies.
They did it at the end of round 1 in Tampa. So what are we doing here? You're either doing it or you're not. But whatever, let it go. One beautiful thing about this show is, there's now only 3 teams left in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That means 29 teams are out. So we have fans of all the other teams watching. Gary writes in from Winnipeg. Gary, on the Progressive Insurance text line, he says, Adam Lowry is expected to be recovering from hip surgery for the next 5 or 6 months. Who do you think will be the acting captain in his absence? Signed, Gary from Winnipeg. If I may go first, and I'm wearing my Jets bunny hug in Jets fans' honor today, why do you got to put a C on anybody? Lowry's the captain. Mm-hmm. Let the assistants do it. That would be my answer to that. How about you?
Yep, same thing. You don't need to replace him, especially when he's going to be back at some point. Even look at Colorado, Gabe Landeskog, right? He was the acting captain, and he hadn't played in 2 years and came back and still had the C. So I think captain is more than just a player on the ice that might be the appointed person to talk to the official, right? It's all about the locker room pulse, and there's sort of a badge of honor to get that C on your jersey for the locker room, not necessarily for what happens on the ice. And yeah, Lowry obviously isn't going anywhere. So, and you've seen teams often that don't have a captain throughout a whole season if the previous captain leaves. So I don't see any issue with the Jets, obviously, keeping Lowry the captain for the time being.
Flames didn't have one for years. By the way, CFL Talk next segment with Taylor. He's the Rough Riders beat writer, and AJ Jakubec, the voice of the Red Blacks, joins us in hour 2. But your Habs, why not? We got a lot of Hab fans watch this show. You must have been very comforted to see this ascent. We've all seen it. Y'all knew it was coming, and they made the playoffs this year, bowed out in round 1 to a very good Washington team. But you knew, Taylor, that it was going the right way, right? And fans were rewarded for that. And they'll continue to get better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, watching down the stretch, them trying to make the playoffs, they looked at one point they were going to be a shoe-in, and then Columbus kind of came back and made it interesting. But I would say those 2 to 3 weeks down the stretch were as exciting as the first round of the playoffs for this team, watching them battle night in and night out to earn those 2 points to get ahead of the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings and whoever else, the Rangers, who were in that wild card competition, I think was just as exciting as getting into that first round. But then when you think about years down the road, we always talk about how important experience is. And when you have all these guys who are 25 and under who are running the first power play, they have actual playoff experience now to draw on next year, the year after, the year after. So we're going to talk about this in a few years now, where they're going to look back on it to say, oh, that was very valuable experience to get in, to battle our way in, to put up a good fight against the top team in the conference. So, again, happy to see them get in, and I think that experience will pay off in the long run.
Gorton and Hughes have done a tremendous job. You've got the goalie of the future. If it's not Montembeault, it probably will be, but you got Dobish there. They're in really good shape, and that makes me happy because I love the Habs fans, even though they're incredibly annoying. You're not, but most of them are. Wayne in BC says, well, I like the tradition of the players and coaches shaking hands. Randy in Winnipeg says the last thing the losing team wants to do is shake hands with 20 suits. That's what Paul Maurice is saying. And I got to get your take on this. Oilers Stars tonight. We made our picks. I picked Dallas. Moose has picked the Oilers. I'm happy to be back in a Western time zone here, Mountain, where it's a sane time to watch hockey. I'm going to bed in the East too early. I haven't watched much of the Oilers, Taylor. Where did they flip this switch? They're just making roadkill out of everybody. Where did that happen? Or was it a gradual thing?
That's a good question. I think it was a gradual thing based on what they did last year. And again, we talk about experience, right? They went through that playoff battle last year and got to the cup final and fell short. And I think they're drawing on a lot of that experience where they've been there, done that. They've been down in series and came back. They've been down in games and came back. And I think they've been drawing on that experience to say, we can do this, we can get there. And again, experience is a big thing in any professional, in any game, right? If you've been there, done that, you know what to do next time, or you can draw on that experience. So I think that's just what it is nothing's going to phase them because they've been on that journey. They were on it last year and they're on it again this year. And I think they're drawing heavily on last year's experience.
There was a news conference this morning in Toronto. Brad Treliving, the GM of the Leafs, addressing the media. One of the quotes that came out was, I saw him say, the DNA, I think it was some of the DNA of this team has to change. And I think we all know that's possibly Mitch Marner, but what was your take on the Leafs? Like, your top rival team, obviously, as a Habs fan, how that has fizzled out again this spring.
Yeah, it's not like they had. It's so interesting. I don't want to call it fickle, but I don't know what it is. But if it's not Stanley Cup, it's a disappointment, right? And I think that's what Leafs fans have been hoping for with the core 4 or core 5 or whatever they have now.
Yeah.
They needed to win, right? They needed to win, and if anything else, it was going to be a failure. But I think the way they lost by getting sort of dominated in the final two of the final 3 games of that series, especially the final game, I think now puts the stamp on this team that changes need to be made. It's not like, oh, we fell just 1 goal short. We were so close, 1 bounce and we'll be into the next series. I think the way they lost, changes will need to be made. Sounds like they are going to be made, and I think for the right reason. I don't think they have that playoff DNA. I think they have a great regular season DNA. But as we've seen before with Stanley Cup champions, you need to have a certain DNA in order to win, and I don't think the Leafs have that right now.
We're covering it all with Taylor Shire today from the Regina Leader Post. He's doing a fantastic job. Next segment, CFL with Taylor. Maybe even in this segment, this is my last hockey question. You following the Memorial Cup at all? I'm sure you are.
Yeah. I knew Medicine I was going to be a good team going into this season. We all knew they were going to be a good team. You look at the roster. And then they started out slow out of the season. They were ranked among the highest teams in the CHL, and then they kind of went on a bit of a skid. They got some guys back from NHL camps and whatnot, dealt with some injuries. But, yeah, playoffs rolled around, and they absolutely dominated the Western Conference the WHL and the Eastern Conference, and went over and took care of business in the Western Conference. And made it to the Memorial Cup, and then honestly, you never really know what the competition is going to be like. It always seems like the Western Hockey League team has a really tough time at the Memorial Cup. You add in that travel where Medicine has to go across the country, it makes it even harder for them because they just came off this grueling playoff run with a whole bunch of travel, right? Think about all the miles they put on based on or compared to the other teams that are in the Memorial Cup. It's double, triple, if not way more than any of the other teams. So you think about all the battles that were played on the ice, the travel, having to go across the country. I think obviously the chips are stacked against Western Hockey League teams anytime they do have to go out east. But we knew how good Medicine Hat was. They're proving it on the big stage. And I'm going to say they're going to be hoisting the Memorial Cup at the end of the week. They're that good.
Yes, but it's must-see TV. Friday night, the semifinal, London, Moncton. We're assuming Dale Hunter and the Knights get back to Sunday's final for a chance to redeem their round-robin loss to Medicine Hat. I'm sure that'll happen. But beating London twice? I don't know. That's why we all got to watch Sunday from Rimouski. That's if you haven't watched junior hockey all year, everybody, now's the time. It's been fantastic. Yeah. By the way, WCBL, Taylor covers all the sports. It's opening night for a lot of teams. Regina Red Sox home to Swift Current tonight. Weyburn home to the Saskatoon Berries. There'll be a huge crowd there tonight to watch Carter Beck and company. My Moose Jaw Miller Express are on the road at Medicine Hat, and it's Energy City at Sylvan Lake. I'm just throwing that in there. I'll get to it more later. But now that we have time here, Randy in Winnipeg says the state of Florida, 6 cup finals and counting. Yeah, I saw a gal, Amanda Casey Vance, that I know. She's a betting influencer. She wrote this morning a photo from the beach. She was 6 straight cup finals here, and it doesn't even snow. Before we do flip over to CFL, how do you feel about that? There's a lot of people getting butthurt that the Stanley Cup's going back to Florida for a 6th straight year. I'm like, get over it. They earned it. How do you feel about that? You agree.
Yep.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of what we deal with there.
Go out and do something about it, or go out and if you want your team.
It just
be
people
there.
are. It's just the way people are, and they say, I don't know. Will this change the perspective of Florida? Because 1 minute only. Okay, I'll wrap this up and we'll switch to CFL after. I'll just tell you this, Taylor. There's 2 huge sentiments in Florida amongst the hockey fans and the people that work for the team. It's like, number one, we don't get any respect, which who cares? And number 2, we went through the terrible times. So don't think that we didn't deserve this. Bill Lindsay was tweeting about it today. One of my closest friends, the radio color guy for the Panthers. A lot of the staff talks about that. They've been with the team for 30 years, a lot of these guys and gals, right? I know that. So why do you care that everybody's poo-pooing you, saying you don't deserve the Stanley Cup? You have the cup. You won it. The Lightning won it twice in that sequence in the 2020s. Why do you care? But they seem to care so much. Brent in Wellington, Florida says, y'all need a hug up there. I'm loving Lord Stanley has taken up Florida residency. Oh, yeah, the Florida people have showed up to watch today, even though that we're broadcasting from Moose Jaw and will be for the next 3 months. Scott in Vancouver says the Leafs made the playoffs 9 years in a row, but way too top-heavy with those same core players. Let Tavares and Marner walk. Paul in Humboldt says every day is a great day to talk about junior hockey. Oh, we agree. We'll be right back after this.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
honky tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
All right, we're back, everybody, on this, what day is it? Thursday, May 29th. RP here at the Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, our summer home as we're broadcasting baseball. And speaking of, as we bring in Taylor Shire from the Regina Leader Post, Bo Bichette's pinch hit 2-run homer in the ninth inning was the difference in the Blue Jays' 2-0 win over Texas on Wednesday. The Rangers managed just one hit in the rubber game of the three-game series. Bichette was not in the starting lineup due to lower back tightness. But to football, and I want to mention this, a documentary that's long awaited on the Baltimore Stallions dropped yesterday. I'm part of that documentary. Ron Snyder put it together. He was a Baltimore newspaper writer, and it's really good. It's on my Facebook, my Twitter. Baltimore Stallions, a lovable era of the 90s. Taylor, are you old enough? I apologize if you are. I don't think you are. What do you remember of the 90s U.S. expansion in the CFL?
Not much other than reading about it after. I'm going to go watch that, though. I didn't know it was out, so I'll have to go check it out.
It just came out yesterday, and he did a hell of a job.
I was born in the 80s. I was born in the 80s, but not quite old.
Not your fault. Not your fault. I get it. By the way, Craig is watching from the Hockey Hall of Fame. Craig Campbell. He says Tampa and Florida in the NHL, plus the East Coast Hockey League or ECHL Everblades win the Kelly Cup in 22, 23, 24. Florida has become the U.S. state of hockey. Hey, we all know that. The world's just a little late catching on. But, Craig, you would love that documentary. You can find it on my Facebook and Twitter. But, Taylor, you were obviously covering Rough Riders camp. It broke yesterday, I think, right? The guys returned to Regina. How much of it were you up in Saskatoon for?
They've been in Regina this whole last week after the first preseason game in Winnipeg. They decided to come back to Regina for the final week ahead of Friday night's game against the Bombers.
Okay, well, it's a four-banger. I'm calling it Friday Night Football, a four-banger. Tomorrow's poll question will be, what's the game of the week? I kind of like that they're doing it all in one night. Montreal is at Ottawa. Hamilton is at Toronto. Winnipeg is at Sask. And BC is at Edmonton. Craig Campbell's an Argo season ticket holder, and he watches the show for the CFL coverage. And frankly, Taylor, that's why I brought you on. How is camp? What are you thinking here as they get ready to kick this sucker off?
Yeah, it was entertaining. A lot of competition, a lot of returnees from last year, and that's going to make for some interesting decisions come cut down day on Saturday. I don't expect too many veterans to be let go. They have a lot of continuity from last year and added a few key pieces in free agency, and there's not a lot of turnover on this roster. So I think they're going to sort of bring in the run it back mentality. Right, they got so close last year. The Riders did, losing in the West Final to the Bombers. They're going to try to do it all again. Second year under head coach Corey Mace. Mark Mueller's back, of course. Trevor Harris is back. So they have a lot of key pieces that are back. They're just going to try to run it back and improve on what they achieved last year, which I would say was a strong season for them based on what they did 2 years prior.
By the way, the CFL, the commentary talk about, or the talk about the Stallions got everybody revved up. So hang on. Once Taylor's gone, I'll get to a lot of the viewer questions. They were just waiting to talk CFL football plus Stanley Cup playoffs. But David Naylor had a Sask Ottawa Grey Cup prediction on what day was it? Well, whatever day he was on here. Was it Monday? Doesn't matter. I can't remember. It's been a busy week. Weren't you saying that? Did you say Sask Ottawa? I feel like in a recent chat?
I did. The last time you had me on, I said Sask Ottawa. So Dave's a smart man.
I asked if you were drinking that early in the morning that you would. But I guess what you said that Winnipeg time is up. That didn't endear you with Winnipeg viewers, but I'm sure you don't care. Has your thoughts changed as training camps are close to closing? Or are you still married to your opinions on the West going into it?
Yeah, I'm still sticking with it. I still think the Riders need to go through Winnipeg in order to win the West Division. They need to be able to beat Winnipeg in Winnipeg, potentially. I mean, in the Banjo Bowl. And then if they manage to win the division and have to host Winnipeg, I'm still going to say Winnipeg and Sask will be in the West Final, just a matter of where that game will be played. The Riders will need to go through Winnipeg at some point in order to get to the Grey Cup. So, yes, it's still Winnipeg's division to lose, but the Riders, I think, will be able to go through them this year.
It just popped into my head when I was talking to Naylor the other day about who's got the best quarterback room in the CFL, and he immediately said Saskatchewan, but then he threw out Calgary and then Montreal. And the fun thing is, and then Farhan from TSN chimed in. He's like, no, it's Montreal. They got the best quarterback room. But Dave did a little digging. That's what makes him as good as he is. And he's like, the backups in the CFL this year have way more playing experience than the starters. And you can go through and look at it. Jeremiah Masoli started way more games in B4. He's in BC now, but you know what I'm saying. He's Nathan Rourke's backup. Mm-hmm. McLeod Bethel-Thompson. He's old enough to be Davis Alexander's dad, but he's his backup in Montreal. Cody Fajardo in Edmonton with Trey Ford. My God, it's a hell of a... Nick Arbuckle started way more games than Chad Kelly in Toronto. This is the one thing, Taylor, the fans don't give the coaches enough credit. They figure this stuff out. They've realized we're going to try the young guy, but if for whatever reason it doesn't work, we got the old guy here. I don't really remember that being a thing. Certainly not as much as it is now.
No, it's certainly not. And it's always about who's going to be next, right? When you have, I'll call it the old guy. So Trevor Harris, and that's maybe the situation that isn't in Saskatchewan, where they have an older quarterback and then they brought in Jake Mayer, who has 45 career starts as a starter, is going to come in as a backup. So is he maybe the quarterback of the future for this team? He's still in his 20s. Trevor Harris is 10 years older than him. So that's sort of the traditional way where you have maybe the veteran and then you have the experienced backup kind of waiting in the wings to take over at some point. So that's, yes, more traditional, but times are changing, and I think teams are willing to give those young quarterbacks a shot now. Davis Alexander, he doesn't have much of a resume, but now he's going to get a chance to start. Trey Ford, finally, I think we've been all kind of waiting for him to get a chance to start, and he's going to get his opportunity. But if he falters, Cody Fajardo's waiting right there.
This is so much fun. Taylor Shire with us from the Leader Post. AJ Jakubec coming up in hour 2, the voice of the Red Blacks. Taylor in Calgary writes in. He says the Stamps are going to beat the Riders in the semifinals. Monty in Saskatoon says, welcome back to Saskatchewan, Rod. Saskatchewan all the way to the Grey Cup. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, well, this guy's a homer. So his prediction holds no water. That's from Jeff, the Stamps fan. If you know him, he just likes to pick fights, Taylor. But you're from Sask. But, hey, I've been called a homer my whole life. I didn't really like it. Nobody calls me that anymore because I'm not. How do you like being called a homer?
If Jeff the Stamps fan has listened to me for the last 10 years, he would know I'm not a homer. I usually try to say it how it is. So I don't mind him coming at me, but he's going to have to call everybody else a homer when all these pundits are picking the Riders to win the division, potentially the Grey Cup this year. They are a favorite. So you could say anybody who, I haven't looked at the latest betting odds, but anybody who puts the Riders at the top is a smart man.
Well, let me make it clear. I'm not calling you a homer. Jeff the Stamps fan is, and again, he likes to just take shots. BW in Edmonton says, how many wins will the Elkamos get? I think I got him at 5. What are you thinking?
I think there'll be a 500 team. I think 9-9 would be appropriate. I think they'll be a good team. To me, they're competitive. They have a really good. I think they've turned it around already. Well, at least on paper, they'll be better than they were last year and the year before. And I think under Trey Ford, they'll be an exciting team to watch. And I think they'll be very competitive in the West Division.
Well, somebody's got to suck. And
exactly,
I don't
right?
think it's gonna. Well, I don't think it's gonna be BC. I don't think it's gonna be Winnipeg. I don't think it's gonna be Sask, and I don't think it's gonna be Calgary. So that leaves Edmonton. Vince in Manitoba writes, and he says, as long as Caleros is the Bombers' quarterback, Riders are in trouble. Oh, thanks for Zach, by the way. Oh, it's on, baby. Paul in Humboldt writes, and he says, young back versus old quarterback, Warren Moon and Tom Wilkinson. Come on, man, guy. I'm only 52. I wasn't watching CFL at the time. Our reference points the last 50 years. Sorry, that's going to have to do. Any last thoughts, Taylor? Are you running to the stadium today, or what's your day looking like?
Yeah, there's a walkthrough today ahead of the Rider game tomorrow, and we talk about game of the week. I just got the depth chart for the Riders, and basically no starters are dressing. All the veterans are going to sit this one out, even though it's the second preseason game at home. So there'll be a lot of backups, a lot of rookies competing for roster spots. There's more than half of the starters are not going to dress this one for the Riders.
Again, that's how things change, and thank you for that, because I'm not the pundit on this. 30 seconds. Okay, Taylor, thank you for your time. We're going to be rolling to break here right away, but that just, you got to defer it with. Would you? He's to the end. Okay, Corey Mace played. He played, right? So if he wants to sit as vets, he doesn't want to risk injury. You got to defer to a guy like that. Also, the reigning West Division Coach of the Year. So Carlos. We'll pick it up later. Thanks, Taylor.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902 518 3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th. With special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's literally a woo-saw. Everybody's just all fired up, and I get it. We're right on the cusp of the brand new CFL season. The Stanley Cup playoffs are going on. Like Wayne in BC is like, I'm so excited for the CFL season. Our viewership's hit the highest that it's been in quite some time. You know what everybody comes here for, and we're the only ones talking about it at this time of the day. It's a fact, and that either makes us crazy or ahead of our time. History will show I'm way ahead of my time. You too, Corey, producer Corey, but it's lonely, isn't it? By the way, Hour 1 is brought to you in part by Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. They throw the best birthday parties in the Calgary area, and there's never an off-season at Overtime Hockey Lanes. So if you have a hockey-obsessed birthday boy or girl, let them take the party off your hands, and they'll host. I've seen their cakes, Flames logos on the – oh, my. I might want to have my birthday there. By the way, from the audience, before I jump into the sports update, Carlos in Indianapolis said, this is what we're here for. The trash talking's going back and forth amongst the fans. If we can keep it civil, I'm here for it. If we can't, you got to go. I'm sorry. And so far, it's been good. Jason in Red Deer says, will the Elks just go with Trey Ford or will they start Fajardo? If Cody shows better in camp, well, you'd have to ask them, but my guess is they're going to start Trey Ford. Here is that comment from Wayne. He says, I'm so excited for the CFL season. I believe it's going to be tight for the playoffs this year, but you never really know with injuries and such. Scott in Vancouver writes in, he says, I was going to say something about the NBA playoffs as I thought football was only discussed on Fridays. You're trying, Scott. You're trying. But here, I don't talk about football or the CFL in the off season, but on Friday. But we're in season. These are the rules. We've only been around. See you, Thomas. Good luck tonight. The boys are back in town. That is Thomas Soto, the all-star third baseman. Yeah. I love him. He's got a great family down there in Round Rock, Texas. Vincent Toba says, I love the sound of the Bombers as underdogs. It's been a while. Depends who you listen to, which is the whole thing. People have been trying to say that the Bombers are old for a really long time. Meanwhile, they've been in the last 5 Grey Cups. To be honest, I like being counted out. That's me. Didn't bother me at all. That's what annoys me about this Florida situation with what's going on with the Panthers going back to the Stanley Cup for a third straight time. I mean, I have been in their shoes, but in a different way. Let me just, we go back and forth. We weave back and forth between football and hockey here somewhat seamlessly. But they're upset they don't get enough respect down there in Florida as a hockey state. They're upset about this. They're upset about that. And I'm just like, Who cares? You're going to the Stanley Cup. You won it last year. What does it matter what everybody thinks? 6 straight years of the Stanley Cup final being played in the state of Florida. Is that not enough? You're upset that the Bombers are being discounted. Who cares? And I think about it. I'll be honest. Back here in Saskatchewan is amazing, where I spent almost a half century of my life, and half of that as the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders for a generation. And my first season was 99, and we were terrible. 3-15, worst stadium, worst turf, worst team, worst everything. Didn't have a coach, didn't have a GM, didn't have a quarterback, like nothing. And we didn't get into the Grey Cup till 2007. That's 9 seasons. We missed the playoffs the first 3 years. I was starting to think we're never gonna make the playoffs. Now that was 7 years of not being in a Grey Cup in my time. For the Panthers, I know that there is a lot. I was saying it to Taylor Shire there earlier. There's a lot of staff. I can name them: Randy Moeller, Bill Lindsay, Mark Eisenberg up in the press box. These guys have been with the team for 30 years. That is a hell of a long wait. But all that does is make it sweeter when the ship comes in. When we won in 2007, this whole "you weren't around in the tough times," that's not my fault, And we went through that with the Rough Riders from 07 to 2015 in the decade of decadence, 05 to 2015, really. All these new fans that we had. That's what the Panthers are going through now. The new fans that just jumped on board when the team got good. It pisses off the old fans. But again, who cares? And by the way, here's a little inside tip for you. The teams don't care how long you've been cheering for them. They don't. Just buy the tickets and buy the jerseys. We're good. So I just get tired of the rhetoric. And again, if I was the Bombers, I would be using that as motivation. Some will, some don't. Willie Jefferson says this stuff does not motivate him. It would motivate me. BW says Taylor Field was worse than McMahon Stadium by a million miles, bro. Consider this. In 1999, Taylor Field was 89 years old with the worst turf, with dead wildlife in the press box. Every day I went into the booth to see what dead animal was going to be on my table or under the table or whatever. It was disgusting. Varmints. McMahon Stadium was built in the 60s. Now, that's old. That's 60-some years old. That's not 89 years old. It not even close. I like McMahon Stadium. I've always said that is my guilty pleasure. Games there were awesome because we were always sold out. For the love of God, I was looking this up the other day, and I don't remember why. We had a preseason game in 1999, Riders at Edmonton. 35,000 people were at Commonwealth Stadium. It was my first ever road broadcast in the city. 35,000 people at Commonwealth Stadium for a freaking preseason game. That happened. Look it up. And I stumbled upon it because I was writing something for the upcoming Don Narcisse autobiography. I was asked to write the foreword. And I looked up the 1999 season. It's on Wikipedia. You can go look it up. 35,000 people. Scott in Vancouver says, considering how bad that Florida franchise was for decades, it's nice to see the building full during the playoffs. I love it too. And to be honest, when I bitch about what they're bitching about, it's not that I don't love them. All my Florida friends were upset that I was coming north for the summer, but that's okay. I'd rather have that than have them say, get the hell out of here. And all my friends here were happy to have me come home for the summer. It'll be fun to go back in the fall. But everybody's like, oh, you're going to miss the Stanley Cup. Well, when I first got to Florida, they weren't going to the Stanley Cup. And I'm here what are we doing for time? We got a break here right away, don't we, Corey? We're going to. Okay. Just let me know. If we're going right to the top of the hour, let me know, because that is like 4.5 minutes. We need to call it for the hour. Darren in Utah says, Rod, I was built in the 60s, and some days I feel old. I'm not saying it's not old. I'm saying we're older, and that it's okay, man. I'm having fun. I'm in a good mood. I'll answer your questions. That's what we're here for. Jason in Red Deer writes, and he goes, whoa, worst stadium? I love Taylor Field. Dude, don't get it twisted. for those of us that went and worked there every day, you didn't see the bird shit covering everybody's desk. You didn't see the garbage cans in the hallways from the leaking roofs. You didn't see the health code violations, 11 of them in all of the washrooms and the concessions, the place. There was a rider chairman, I'm not going to tell you his name now, but he told me, he goes, every single day I'm waiting to get a call to hear that the East Side Grandstand collapsed. And we were still playing in it. I'm glad that you loved it, Jason and Red Deer. We're lucky somebody didn't die. That's a fact, okay? And that's why you tune in this show, because you're going to get the facts. Heavy Gym Sports update. The Edmonton Oilers have a shot to close out the Western Conference Final tonight in Dallas. A win in Game 5 sends them back to the Stanley Cup Final and sets up a rematch with the Florida Panthers. The Memorial Cup won't have a tiebreaker game this year, with the Q champion Moncton Wildcats taking out host Rimouski 6-2 last night for a spot in Friday's semifinal. Moncton, which defeated Rimouski for the Q title earlier this month, will face Ontario champion London for a spot in Sunday's Memmer final against the WHL champion Medicine Hat Tigers. Indiana Pacers can secure their first NBA Finals berth since 2000 with a win in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight at Madison Square Garden. Pacers grabbed the 3-1 series stranglehold on Tuesday. The Blue Jays host the Athletics tonight in the opener of their 4-game series. Toronto coming off a 3-game set in which they took 2 of 3. The doesn't say to who, of course. It was Texas. Who writes this stuff? The Jays won the finale yesterday 2-0. Jose Berrios will be on the mound for Toronto while Jacob Lopez starts for the Athletics. That's why this show is so popular, because the new media now doesn't feel the need to tell you who the Blue Jays played. They won 2 of 3 and 2-0 yesterday. Doesn't matter who they beat. What a time to be alive. We're brought to you by Heavy Gym. Heavy Gym isn't just about lifting weights. It's about lifting your spirit, your strength, and your potential. Step into the gym that's changing lives. Find out more at heavygym.ca. And, of course, also for Landmark Cinemas. In Landmark Cinemas now, Marvel Cinematic Universe characters. The Thunderbolts. Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts is in theaters now, starring Hannah John Kamen. I don't even know who that is. I hope I'm saying it right. Sebastian Stan, Olga Kurylenko, and Julia Louise-Dreyfus. Her I know. Marvel Studios Thunderbolts in Landmark Cinemas now. Okay, coming up next hour, AJ Jakubec, the voice of the Ottawa Redblacks. That's going to be fantastic. He's always got the hot takes. What do we got? A little about a moment. No, we don't. No, we don't. I'm pretty sure I'm on time, bro. That much I know. Yeah. Brenton Wellington says, Rod, my grocery bill doesn't miss you, but I'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, well, that's for the Florida people that are here watching. We'll see you back for hour 2 after this.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
I'm Bridget Laquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
All right, here we go. That's right. Oh, I can't get more Canadian than this. I'm drinking Tim Hortons. We're talking hockey and the good old hockey game and telling CFL stories. We're, for those that don't know, we're in the Moose Jaw Golden Ticket Sports Center. It's our home for the summer. I'll be broadcasting Moose Jaw Miller Express baseball for another season in the Western Canadian Baseball League, which I love so much. Coming up later on this hour, AJ Jakubec will be with us, the voice of the Ottawa Redblacks. We'll be talking Stanley Cup playoffs and all the rest. But here's what's new. Yeah. So I got two phones. Can you believe that? I actually have two cellular phones, and one is a U.S. number and one is a 306 Canadian number. So yes, Corey, that's me texting you, producer Corey. It comes up on some people's phones fine, and comes up. I'm getting a lot of, is this you, Rod? Yes, it is. Here's what we've been talking about, and I can't believe, again, we've covered this so well. Point one, NHL leftovers from last night. We didn't really get into the game with Moose right off the top. He had to fly quick. I only had him for 7 minutes, and he had to go. But the Carolina Hurricanes jumped out to a 2-0 lead. We went to Montana's for supper once I landed last night and watched the game there. It's pretty Canadian too, right? Even though the name's Montana's. Carolina was up 2-0, and I was like, oh yeah, ho hum. Panthers will come back. They don't call them comeback cats for nothing. And they won 5-3 with an empty netter. They clinched the Eastern Final, wouldn't touch the trophy. They're off to the Stanley Cup, and Bob's your uncle. The big question, though, and I have not checked the poll results in an hour's time, but our poll question is, it comes out of what Paul Maurice said after the game. He and Carolina coach Rod Brind'Amour did not go through the player handshake line. They just shook hands at the benches. I don't really understand why this is such a big deal for everybody, but whatever. It's Canada where everything's a big deal, especially when it comes to hockey. And Paul goes, the coaches shouldn't go through the players' line. That's for the players. They just had the war against each other, 20 versus 20. They don't need to be shaking hands with the coaches or guys in a tracksuit that they don't know, i.e. the equipment managers. Okay, great. But why did you do that at the end of round one? And all of your staff, because I love Paul Maurice as much as the next guy. It happened in round one. It didn't happen last night. Why the hell is everybody talking about? Why is my phone being blown up by hockey people asking what was the deal? That was the deal. Paul says it should just be for players, and that's the poll question for EMJ Marketing today. Should coaches go through the player handshake line? My answer to that, my vote was yes. I'm pretty sure Darren voted no, but the results are like 51-49. It's really not that big a deal. And then, frankly, what I think is a bigger deal, and others don't, is that Florida's going to the Stanley Cup final for a third straight year. And if Edmonton should beat Dallas tonight, the Oilers are going back to the Stanley Cup final, so it's a rematch. I probably had 3 people in the last couple days say to me, when's the last time there was a rematch in the Stanley Cup final? And I had to think for a minute because I knew Detroit won back-to-back cups in the late 90s, but they didn't play the same team. And Tampa won back-to-back cups, but they didn't play the same team. I was thinking Islanders, Oilers, early 80s, but it's not that. It's Penguins, Red Wings, 08-09, and the NHL sent out a graphic stating such. Here's the history. They're just getting out front of it, but if I was the Dallas Stars, I would be pissed right off. Hello, we're still playing. That would be a point of motivation for me, and some coaches would do that. Others wouldn't. But I picked Dallas. This is how you pick to motivate your team or how you pick to motivate yourself, whatever. We all have different buttons to be pushed. But I've got Dallas picked tonight to win. Moose has the Oilers picked to win. I'm leading him in the pick pool, and it's become must-see TV. And by the way, speaking of must-see TV, that's the other thing. Point 3 is the Memmer. I know that offends some people if it's not referred to as the Memorial Cup, but it is a free country fought for by those men and women for which the trophy is named the Memorial Cup. The nickname in the hockey world, you all want to be part of it, the culture, it's called the Memmer by everybody, especially over the last 15 years probably. It's must-see TV, Sunday's final. It's down to 3 teams. Host Rimouski is out. There will be no tiebreaker. Friday night, there's a semifinal. Gardiner McDougall. Somebody help me out with that. He's either from here or just coached here, but he coached in the SJ for quite a while, right? Gardiner McDougall. Everybody loves him. I never met him. But they say he coached his ass off to get his Moncton Wildcats into the semifinal Friday night against Dale Hunter and the London Knights. We're assuming London will motorboat him and move to Sunday's final, London versus Medicine Hat, which Medicine Hat won the round-robin game Tuesday night between the 2 best teams in the country. Looks like they're going to meet Sunday in the final in a rematch. If you love junior hockey, this is for you. I know what I'm going to be doing on Sunday, parking my fat ass in front of the television, watching the Memorial Cup final like I do every Sunday. And again, it's why I love Canada. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says Maurice looked ticked at Brenda Moore. I know people are trying to make something out of that. Just don't. You have to understand, coaches walk off the bench at the end of a Stanley Cup playoff game. It's an intense time. They're not going for tea and crumpets. Football coaches are worse. Okay. What else we talk about? Blue Jays, they beat Texas 2 out of 3. Wednesday, they're back home tonight to Oakland. NBA playoffs, I mentioned, but we won't be talking about that here. And then there was a lot of Canadian Football League talking coming up in the next segment. Because Shire is with us from the Leader Post. I just love that kid. From the moment I met him, I loved him. He's from Rocanville, Saskatchewan, where a lot of the greats are from. That's what I thought. Okay, North Texas Mean Green writes in. He says, McDougall coached 1 year in the SJ for LeBret. Thank you. I knew some history. I thought it was with more teams in the SJ, but everybody just talks so lovingly about Gardiner McDougall. Obviously, he had a huge impact. And I was working in the dub at that time. I wasn't even covering the SJHL. But loosely remember the time of him being around. But anyways, Taylor was with us last hour. He covers the Rough Riders, and we previewed Friday night's big 4-banger in the CFL, 4 preseason games to close the exhibition schedule. Final cut-down day is on the weekend. So I know this is maybe hard. They're my unwritten rules. What am I supposed to write them down and put them on a tablet? I don't talk about football, particularly CFL, Monday to Thursday in the damn winter. I save that for Friday. But we're now in season. And that's why so many of you have come here today. People, it's funny because somebody wrote into my Cats and Bolts Panthers podcast the other day and goes, "This is the only Florida hockey podcast I trust. It's my number one source for information." I'm just doing the same thing there that I do here. People are writing in going, "This is my number one source for CFL coverage." Again, we're just giving people what they want. And that's CFL talk because we love the league. So how it came, the Baltimore Stallions documentary dropped yesterday, and I was interviewed for it by Ron Snyder, who was a newspaper writer in Baltimore, covered the Stallions in the 90s, and for whatever reason, he likes me. I don't know why anybody would, frankly, but he does, and so he asked me to be he interviewed me for his documentary, which dropped yesterday. I think it's going to Netflix. And, I wasn't broadcasting in the league in the 90s, but I was on the Rider broadcast. I was 19. But cover Rough Riders. Why do people ask? They ask because they know that I'm always available and that I'll do a great job. Sorry, but it's true. So I'm in this documentary, and spoiler alert, I said how the CFL people, they're actually not around anymore, but the people that were running the CFL at the time, about 20 years ago, said, "Rob, would you stop talking about the U.S. expansion?" And I'm like, "Why? It was awesome." And they're like, "It's an embarrassing time in CFL history." I'm like, "I don't think so." But that's when things started to change, where I couldn't talk about what I wanted to talk about. The people in charge were like, "No, don't talk about." Okay. Meanwhile, you're selling their gear in your store. Baltimore Stallions, Memphis Mad Dogs, Sacramento Gold Miners. It's so confusing. Birmingham Barracudas. You want to make money off it, but you don't want guys like me to talk about it. What do you want? Anyways, I was saying that's how it came up. I said that I started in the CFL in 99 full-time doing the Rough Rider games, and I said Taylor Field was the worst stadium in the league, and it ruffled some feathers here, which I don't give a shit because it's true. I was there. Like Jason and Red Deer, what were you there, 2 times a year? I was there every day. Every day. It was horrible, especially in 99. Because we didn't have, you guys are trying to compare it to McMahon Stadium. McMahon Stadium has probably got the best turf in the CFL right now. Talk to the Polies and the Jurisons and the Aldags that lost their entire skin off their arm from the turf at that place. It was like playing on, you remember them saying it was like playing on pavement. That's just the turf. And I was pressed for time last hour, so I'll tell it a little more. Every single time I went into that press box to broadcast a game, there was a dead muskrat on my desk or a dead pigeon shit all over the place. Like, it was disgusting. But you like to go there for a couple of games a year, like the Labor Day Classic's always the best. It was a dump. And so Jason in Red Deer writes in and says, "That's so crazy to hear, Rod. How the hell did they get away with all the violations for so long? That's a question for another time or a book." "Oh, I don't know. It was city-owned." "Who hands out the tickets for the health violations?" "The city." Do the math. Paul in Humboldt writes that he says, "Thanks for confirming it, Rod. I remember looking at broken concrete pillars in the east standings and wondering how they were still open for use." He says, "P.S. Taylor Field versus Mosaic Stadium, like moving from the house to the penthouse, in my opinion." Well, of course, they went from the worst stadium to the best. I was surprised we were even able to handle it, but we were. Oh, you wait until that book comes out, man. I've written like 1 page of it. Some people need to die before the book actually gets published and put on sale. You understand. But to protect the innocent. But that's just one of the many stories that one Rider chairman said to me as we were just having coffee. He was like, which we used to do. Nobody does that anymore. But he was like, every day I'm expecting to get a call that the East Side Grandstand collapsed. Hopefully it's not during a game. Thank you for pointing it out, Carlos in Indianapolis, that it was 1:11 Eastern. But I'm on a roll here. Yes, Jeff, the Stamps fan, pointing out other teams that I did not mention. Shreveport Pirates, San Antonio Texans. There is a book that was written by my good friend Ed Willis, who he signed it personally to me. I'll never forget. I love Ed used to write for the Leader Post in Vancouver Province. He's retired now, but he said, to Rod, from one CFL guy to another. End zones, and border wars, the story of the U.S. expansion. I was reading that on a flight, I'll never forget, in 2013 to Tampa Bay, and I was falling out of my chair laughing so hard at the stories of Jeff Reinbold and Ron Rivera and the Vegas Posse and practicing in a parking lot where they just dumped dirt and started practicing in the parking lot. And how the coach, Reinbold's stories are even 10 times better. He had to run practice half the time because Ron Rivera was at the craps table and at the Riviera, and he's like, Jeff, you go, coach. I'm on a heater here. Oh, Jason in Red Deer says, I would love for you to do a whole separate show every week just telling stories, Rod. LOL. Yeah, these have never even seen the light of day today. This isn't, I feel like I'm repeating my stories too often, but not today. It's a brand new age. Hey, Ryan in upstate New York, can you tell me about the, what's this with Ovechkin? I saw you opining about it on Twitter. So there was some nefarious way of them announcing that Ovechkin's coming back next season. Did we not all know that he's coming back next season? Like when they lost out to Carolina in the playoffs, the first thing he said was he's coming back. So how is this news today? I don't understand. You're going to have to help me. 902-518-3033 is the text line. Bob Irving and I used to stand and talk about whose stadium was worse. Winnipeg, later Canadian Stadium, or Taylor Field. We're like, mine's worse than yours. No, mine's worse, and here's why. Then we opened the new places, and we argued about which was better. Rob says, Rob Swallow writes, it is Taylor Field, East Side Grandstand, lower level bathrooms. There was always something dripping on your head in the summer. Always told myself it was water just so I could sleep at night. It wasn't. Freddie in Winnipeg, cough, cough. Welcome back to the Smoky Prairies, Rod. Sorry I'm late to your show. Looking good, by the way. That's on producer Corey and his company, Skycron. Everybody's telling us how great and clear the picture looks. We're hearing the sound is way better. For those listening on the podcast, they're now up on all major podcast platforms. Everything is good. It's a brand new day. Are you not entertained? What are we at, Corey-ish? I get a lot of questions. 30 now? Okay, Kirk in Toronto says, hey, Rod, has Taylor Field been raised? Taylor Field is a parking lot now. And a lousy one at that. Ron in Calgary. That was from producer Corey. I'm just repeating it. I'm not sure if it's Corey or God. I get voices in my. It's very similar. Ron's morning, Rod, from Ron in Calgary. Any plans on coming to Calgary area this summer? We'll talk about it later. We're out.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center, July 7th. With special guest, Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
All right, everybody. Hour 2 is brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. In Landmark Cinemas now, Fight or Flight. A mercenary takes on the job of tracking down a target on a plane, but must protect her when they're surrounded by people trying to kill both of them. Starring Josh Hartnett, Katie Sackhoff, and Julian Kostov. Fight or Flight in Landmark Cinemas now. Okay, our good friend AJ Jakubec joins us. As you see, AJ, this probably you wouldn't know that I'm in Moose Jaw. Take my word for it. I'm back in Saskatchewan. I'm ready for the summer. And I feel like you are, too, as the voice of the Ottawa Red Blacks. Am I right?
Absolutely. Already fired up for that game on Thursday against Saskatchewan. And even more fired up to see where you're going to take me on Wednesday. Are we going to go see the Weyburn Beavers? Are we going to go see the Regina Red Sox? I know your Moose Jaw Miller Express are playing in Weyburn. So I haven't been to Weyburn since 1993. I went to the Weyburn Red Wings spring camp, and I got 2 black eyes and a cut right over my face. So I'd like some positive memories about Weyburn, and I'm hoping to go to a Beavers game with you.
I'd be happy to take you to Tom Lang Park, and we'll stop at the 7-Eleven across the street where Julia Roberts was once spotted in 1990 with her boyfriend Kiefer Sutherland, whose grandma lives in Weyburn. Don't get me started. But AJ, before we talk about...
Okay, I'm holding you to that.
Yeah. No, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's right on the entrance of town. Stanley Cup playoffs, though. How have you felt how this has gone?
Well, it looks like we're getting a rematch, which is going to be a heck of a series. Florida, basically took. I mean, when you look at the last couple of series, and I feel like the 2 best teams in the East, I felt that from the outset of the playoffs, were playing each other in round 1, Florida, Tampa Bay, and the Panthers were by far the better team there. The Leafs gave them a pretty good run, but Florida, when they turn it up, they can emasculate teams. And we saw that against the Leafs. We saw that in particular in Game 3 against the Carolina Hurricanes. So they're certainly a threat to repeat. But hoping the Oilers can get it done tonight and set up a rematch, because I think the Oilers look like a better team in these playoffs as well. And I wouldn't have said that. I mean, the last time I was on with you, I said it, and it is like every team's got some flaws. Florida's got some flaws. But, the Oilers went from a team that could outscore their flaws to a team that all of a sudden John Klingberg rewinded the clock to when he was the number 1 defenseman in Dallas, and Evander Kane stepped in to the playoffs as if he didn't miss 11 months, as if he didn't miss 11 days. And Connor Brown, hopefully he's able to get back, is a player that is playing his best hockey of his career. And before that, his best hockey that he played in his career was here in Ottawa, where he was a real good Ottawa Senator. So I think, that's the matchup that I'm looking forward to. There's, Dallas is a very good team and a likable team, and this series is not over. But, I think Edmonton, Florida is the matchup that everyone's looking for outside of Dallas.
Rich in Edmonton writes in, Rich Robertson. He says, H.A. Jakubec, the pride of Fairview Boulevard in beautiful St. Albert, Alberta. I just got to throw that in there because he is like your biggest fan. I want to meet Rich one day because he watches every single day, and I appreciate him so much. But just on that Oilers thing for a second, you say like the Panthers have flaws. Here's their flaws. When they don't play well, they suck. I saw it in Game 4. I was there in Sunrise. You know what I mean? Like the Oilers, they all got to fire 10 out of 10 or they're not going to win. That's not changed. Every team's like that, right? Did I lose you? Did I lose AJ? I'm just saying if you don't play well, you're going to lose. That's not a real secret. Did we lose AJ? How come he's just staring at me?
I was told to move right. Here I am.
Oh my God, you're fine. For the love of, you're good. He's totally
good.
He's fine. So to the interview, I'm just saying the Oilers and Panthers every team's got flaws if you don't play well, and I guess that's what sets it up. And I asked, who the hell was it? I said, when did the Oilers flip the switch? I never got a really good answer. When did you see the Oilers flip the switch?
Well, they were dominated in the first two games of that LA series, and I think Jim Hiller, God love him. I dealt with him when he was in the Western Hockey League in Tri-Cities and Chilliwack, and real good guy. And you don't lead a team like LA to the playoffs and to that spot if you're not a really good coach. But they were forechecking the crap out of that Oilers defense, and then all of a sudden, they get ahead in games and start playing the 1-3-1. And now instead of, pasting guys like Bouchard and Nurse and their defense, up against their own glass, they were gifted center ice because they're playing the 1-3-1. And LA was just basically defending in their own zone with a lead, hoping that, they could contain guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard, who I'd rather have them play more time in their end than they circle around while you try to protect the middle in your end. It might work against Anaheim. It might work against San Jose. Didn't work against the Edmonton Oilers. So I thought he screwed up that first round. Just watching, it's easy to watch from your couch or the 500 level. I get it, but I thought all of a sudden they built some confidence from there, and their blue line, which looked to me like a bit of a weakness, all of a sudden, like I said, Klingberg started to show that he's back and healthy and playing the best hockey that he has since Dallas. Jake Wallman's been a revelation. Love Troy Stetcher. I don't even know what they do, once Ekholm is back. As do you go with 7? Do you bring back Skinner? I guess we'll wait and see. Clearly you want to play Ekholm, but Stetcher's made Darnell Nurse better. And so, they've got, that's a nice problem to have, given the fact that, Oilers fans were lamenting the loss of Philip Broberg in the offseason. And now it looks like, defense is the least of their worries.
Okay, buddy, to the CFL. That's why you're here. And to the viewers, I'll get to all your comments after. They're loving our chat here, AJ. But Naylor said the other day, you saw it, that this is a Grey Cup preview in week 1, Ottawa at Sask. I feel like you guys aren't shying away from that. Is it legit prediction, do you think?
I think it is, but I think you're picking from 5 or 6 teams. Like, it's fine to say Ottawa, and I think Ottawa's got a chance, but the 2 best teams in the CFL the last couple of years, it's not Winnipeg. It's Toronto and Montreal. Like, you could see a legit gap. Ottawa was there with everybody else in the league last year. Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, but they were 1-5. They finished 9-8-1. They were 1-5 against Toronto and Montreal. There looked to me, just watching the games, like there was a gap between those 2 and the other 7. So, and last 2 years, first 2 years since 68 and 69, that the East has had a better record than the West. And look who's won the last 2 Grey Cups, Toronto and Montreal. Probably in years that you would have expected the other to win it, but still, like the East goes through those places. There's question marks. Toronto's got question marks. They lost, a lot on the D line. Certainly, what are we going to see out of Chad Kelly? And Montreal's replaced Cody Fajardo with Davis Alexander, who looked great last season for sure, but it's different being the guy. It's different going out and meeting the media each and every week. We saw that last year with Drew Brown. It's a learning curve. And I think he handled it quite well, but there are some ups and downs. So, look, from an Ottawa perspective, I think their offense should be pretty good. They brought in William Stanback. They brought in Gino Lewis. They brought in Peter Godber on the O-line, and everyone else is a holdover from a team last year whose offense was pretty good. And on defense, the big concern was in the secondary. And one of the things that I've seen at camp so far, and especially in that preseason opener against Montreal, is they look to address it. They brought in a new defensive coordinator in Will Fields, and they brought in a ton of players in the secondary. And there's going to be a lot of new starters with the DBs this year for Ottawa, and I think that's a good thing. So we'll see. On paper, it looks pretty good, but injuries play a part. And when it comes to the East, Toronto, Montreal, and even Hamilton, with some of the weapons that they brought in, and Bo Levi Mitchell, I think you've got 4 pretty good teams in the East.
Jeff, the Stamps fan, writes in. He says that's how Winnipeg has managed to make 5 straight Grey Cups. The West has been relatively weak. I feel like this is funny. I mean, I've been around a while. I'm pretty sure you've been around a while, AJ. Everybody's giving their predictions right now. Unless we write them down, nobody's going to remember. But as you remember, here in Saskatchewan, optimism reigns. That's just the way Canadian sports fans are about their team, right? And but like, you lost 2 key starters you signed in free agency on the O-line, Gagnon and McEwen. McEwen for the year, right? And you talk to any offensive coordinator or offensive coach, if you have problems on the O-line, you're done, right? So I'm just sitting there going, okay, I'm just listening to the predictions, but none of this is set in stone at all. For the love of God, it's May, AJ. It's just fun predictions, right?
For sure. And like, I mean, I haven't seen Calgary in preseason, but, they've got Vernon Adams Jr., they've got PJ Tucker as a backup. Like, it feels like even Calgary, who's, a lot of people are ranking the 9th best team, like, is it going to absolutely stun me if I see Vernon Adams Jr. lead that team to the playoffs? I would say no. Edmonton's a team that they built up their Canadians in the offseason. They've got good quarterback depth. If Trey Ford, doesn't work out, and I like Trey Ford, and I think, there's a good chance that it will, but you've got a Grey Cup winning MVP quarterback in Cody Fajardo to step in if things don't work out there. So, like, if those are the 8th and 9th best teams, and Hamilton in the East, like, that's a pretty good league. Like, I don't really see a team that I'm absolutely convinced no chance is going to make the playoffs, that they're absolutely going to be a bottom feeder, which is great. You want to see parity. You want to see every week the opportunity for every team to beat the other team. And I feel like to start the season, we have that. And I like the fact that Ottawa's playing Saskatchewan and a real stiff test out of the gate. Let's see how these 2 teams look if people think that they've got Grey Cup capabilities.
Yeah, that's also fun. If this is a Grey Cup preview next week, my God, that might be enough to sell out the stadium, which I would love to be there, but we got a game here in Moose Jaw that very night. So, and just like tomorrow night, the Riders are home to Winnipeg, but we got a game here against the Saskatoon Berries. It's life. We can't be everywhere. I got to flip back to hockey for a second. That's the beautiful thing about AJ. We can do that, go back and forth. And I should tell you the Progressive Insurance text line's open, 902-518-3033. If anybody has a question or comment for our guest or me, are you following? Well, you are following the Memorial Cup. What are your thoughts on what's playing out in Rimouski?
Yeah, I actually saw both Rimouski and Moncton play this year in the queue, trying to hit off some arenas on my tour. 2 really good teams. I'm not surprised that Moncton ended up, winning last night. Just a little bit more depth. I really like Desnoyers. He's going to be a high pick in the draft. So, and well coached. Gardner McDougall, all he's done is win everywhere. So London's got a real good team. I I'm a Canadian. I like all regions. I've lived in 4 different provinces: Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, Ontario. I could walk to Quebec in less than an hour. So I love all areas of this country. But, I grew up in the West. I called games in the Western Hockey League, and I hope the drought ends this year. I watched a little bit of the Medicine Hat series against Spokane when it was on TSN for the WHL final, and I was really impressed with that Tigers team. It's not just Gavin McKenna and Weisblatt. I mean, getting Lindstrom back is huge. I've been really impressed with Ryder Ritchie. I mean, Väisänen on the back end, a real strong player, and the goalie, what a story he is. Especially with the tragic loss of his father so suddenly as well. So hoping that Medicine Hat can get it done. But honestly, we got 3 capable teams of winning it all. The one concern I would have for the Tigers, and we've seen this in Memorial Cups past, is just that break. When you clinch on the Tuesday and now you wait until the Sunday, that's a lot of waiting as everyone else is playing hockey. You can use it to your advantage, but we've seen some teams struggle with that in the past as well. So hoping the Tigers can get it done and end that 11-year drought.
Hey, I got a question for you. Did you see in the AHL the announcer for the visiting team in Abbotsford got into it with a fan? Yeah, you saw that? What were your brushes with fans? Maybe you still have them. I don't know. What do you? I get triggered when I think of the Lower Mainland. I had all kinds of issues with fans out there calling games.
Yeah, Prince George was one where a fan came up and he was like, I had to take a break in the middle of the game because he's literally like 5 feet away from me yelling at me because I didn't say anything bad about Prince George. The Oil Kings were an expansion team and they're beating Prince George 5-0. Tough luck. Move away from the radio booth if you don't like me getting excited for a goal call. So that was almost an ugly incident. And I guess in terms of pure hilarity, a couple of years ago, and Brad Sinopoli was filling in. Jeff Avery missed a couple of games, and Brad Sinopoli was filling in the broadcast booth. And there was an issue. There was a couple of coaches' challenges that didn't go well. They were terrible calls from the command center. And we had a couple of fans basically yelling at our booth. They thought we were the command center. And we had to tell them, like, we're on the air. We're not taking a break. We're like, we're the broadcasters. This is Brad Sinopoli. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Relax. So that's probably one of the funniest since I got to Ottawa. But, yeah, there are a couple. I mean, there was a Kootenay Ice security guard back in the day that used to yell and scream, like, right next to your broadcast booth.
Yeah.
I had enough of that guy. So, yeah, told him where to go. But it's all part of the fun, right?
Yes. I don't particularly miss it. But one night in Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver, which, as you know, what does that place hold? 14,000 at the most. I'm calling a junior game, and you're right in the middle of the crowd. And I like to stand when I call games. I think you do too. And this guy comes up like 10 minutes into the first period. He leans over the rail and he's like, "Hey, buddy, can you sit down? My kid and I can't see the ice." I said, "There's 12,000 empty seats in here. You can move. I can't." And then he gets mad, calls security, and then they make me sit down. I'm like, for God's sakes, I'm the visitor here. And Edmonton, Commonwealth, because you're a favorite son of that town, you're probably fine. But some guy came in front of the press box, and back in the day, I'm doing Rider games. Guy yells in there, "Pedersen, you're a hack." And he stood there and was waiting for a response. I'm on the air with my pregame show. Like, it's hard to believe, but I was telling this earlier, AJ. We had a preseason game there in 1999. It just happened. I looked it up the other day. 35,000 people at a preseason game, Riders, Eskimos, 1999. Nobody would believe that now. Nobody would believe it.
Well, when I grew up there in the 80s, and you think, okay, the Edmonton Oilers won 5 Stanley Cups with one of the greatest teams ever assembled. And, Wayne Gretzky, arguably the best player to ever play the game. And the Edmonton Eskimos in the 80s were every bit as big as the Edmonton Oilers. Warren Moon and the tail end of that dynasty. Like, I lived it side by side. We were pretty spoiled growing up watching 2 dynasties back to back. But that's not that. I mean, it's 40 years ago. I get it's, I was a kid then, and now I got a gray beard, but that's not that long ago. We're not talking about 120 years ago here when it was
not
horse
talking
racing
black
and
and white.
boxing.
You're not talking black and white film, or photographs.
No. We still had video games.
Good point. It's just I hope and think they could get back there for their sake. I hope so. Mark Killam, great guy. Chris Morris, all those guys. I like Ed Hervey, man. I hope that they do well, but I do have them picked last place. Rich in Edmonton says 100% the Esks were as big in those 80s. You tell a kid now from Edmonton, they would find it probably very hard to believe. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says Calgary Stampeder original, Brad Sinopoli. They love the old CFL stories. I will see, Jeff, the Stamps fan, says the Evil Empire was big, but long since over. Well, maybe they'll bring it back. Okay, AJ, I will look at that schedule. I'm a one day at a time guy. You like to plan.
Okay.
I get it. Months, years out. Not me. I'm 24-hour segments. So we'll find out next week. We'll make a plan, okay? AJ Jakubec, the voice of the Ottawa Redblacks. We'll be back. Viewer takeover the rest of the way. After this...
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th. With special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
I'm Bridget Laquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Okay, we are back and we are live from the Moose Jaw Golden Ticket Sports Center. It's going to be our summer home, so everybody just get used to it. I know that I guess a lot of you weren't watching last summer, but this is what we do. And I'll be broadcasting Moose Jaw Miller Express games with Flow Sports beginning tomorrow night. But the Miller Express are on the road. It was so nice to see the boys. If you want to get into story time, I said when I came here last year, I started doing the games. I said, I don't want to get to know the players. I don't want to get to know the families. I just want to call the games and leave. Show up just before game time, leave right after. Nope, I'm out. I've been hurt too much. Didn't work that way. Thomas Soto, the all-star third baseman, walked by here earlier. Give me that. Mr. P. Oh, I love him. I love them all. And the Saskatoon Berries come to town Friday night with league MVP Carter Beck. They are at Weyburn tonight. It's kind of his hometown game at Tom Lang Park. We went so fast there with AJ. Also tonight, Swift Currents of Regina. The Energy City something Rats. I don't like what they've done with their name. They're from Edmonton. They visit Sylvan Lake. And Moose Jaw's at Medicine Hat. But Weyburn is like my second hometown. And I worked, that was my first radio job was in Weyburn. And that 7-Eleven, it spawned a long conversation here between viewers about the 7-Eleven. But in 1990, right at the peak of Julia Roberts' stardom, Pretty Woman and Sleeping with the Enemy and all her big movies were out then. She was dating Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland's grandma lived in Weyburn. And they came up to see her, and they were spotted at the 7-Eleven. And back then, if you had a camera on you, it was a $20 Kodak disposable. Word quickly spread around Weyburn that Julia Roberts was in the 7-Eleven on Souris Avenue. I believe it was Service. Highway 13 goes right through there, but I believe it's called Souris Avenue. Yeah. AJ wants to go there next week, the night before his Red Blacks take on the Rough Riders. A couple of years ago, something always happens when AJ and I get together. And a few years ago, the Red Blacks were in town. We were driving down Victoria Avenue. Right at the corner of the Italian Star Deli, Halifax Street, a moose came out of nowhere and hit the side of my SUV. I shit you not. AJ will attest. He was there. He was with me. He said, what happens with you? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's God. But we always survive. Rich in Edmonton says, the Cactus Rats. Terrible name, considering we are nowhere near a desert and in a rat-free province. Right? But they didn't ask me. Jeff in the Zone says, where can I watch WMBL? Flow Sports. Look it up. FLO Sports. They are the host broadcaster this year. And there's a lot of us veteran play callers calling games in the WCBL. The weather's been beautiful. Moose Jaw looks fantastic. Green. I'm not going to lie. It's the best life. Florida for 9 months. Here for 3. It's the best life. We were talking about Taylor Field being a bad stadium. It offended some people. I don't care. It's the truth. Ron in Calgary writes in, he says, Taylor Field was definitely the worst stadium, as I had season tickets in 78, 79, and horrible even back then. McMahon in Calgary is now the worst. Oh, it's by far the worst, and it's not close. But just don't compare what that is now to Taylor Field. I get the mystique of it all, and I could tell you more. What do we got, a minute? A little more than that? I should have written this down. A little under a minute. I'll carry these stories into next hour. Well, there was 2 guys driving from Vancouver to Halifax-ish, if you can do that, in a Scooby-Doo van. They were driving from coast to coast in a Volkswagen van. They stopped at Taylor Field, and I was there all the time. These guys jumped out of the van, and they said, can we, go touch this turf? And I'm like, Yeah. Opened the door. They ran through the gate. They took their shoes off to walk onto the turf. I'm like, nobody does that, but go ahead. That's how hallowed that place was. Trust me, I get it. But don't say it wasn't a dump. It had to go. Okay, and there's other gross stadiums too, but this was the place that I went to work at every day for 20 years. We'll be back.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
All right, we're back for Overtime, and it is appropriately brought to you by our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes. And I appreciate you all being with us here live today. And tomorrow we'll be back on television. They tell me Game Plus. So, yes, everything is coming into perspective, coming into place. I'd say I'm getting a lot of compliments on my Winnipeg Jets bunny hug that I'm wearing today. Even though Manitobans don't call it a bunny hug, they know what I'm saying when I say that. I left. Oh, you're working with Game Plus as we speak? Okay, awesome. Thank you, producer Corey. I left far more clothes here at my home here than I thought. So I did travel up with quite a few RP Show shirts and stuff, those colorful ones. But I got a lot of cool gear up here, too, that I get to debut over the next 3 months. Or not debut, but wear again. It's a little warmer than what you could get away with in Florida. So I'm having fun with this. And here's what's fun about daytime sports talk is we can deal with these tempests in a teapot and then put them to bed just as fast. What am I talking about? The sports update for Heavy Jim is this. The Washington Capitals said today that no decision has been made on Alex Ovechkin's future in the NHL after an email was sent to season ticket holders calling next season his last. The team on social media clarified that the email was mistakenly sent by someone in the corporate sales department. So are we getting all this? News came out of Washington today. Fake news that this upcoming season would be Ovi's last. Oh, no, that's wrong. Somebody in the sales office sent that out by mistake. You're sitting there saying they're an NHL team. How could they screw something up like that? You'd be wrong. Which, by the way, mistakes happen. What a time to be alive, as I've said twice now today. The Edmonton Oilers have the opportunity to close out the Western Conference Final and head to a Stanley Cup Final rematch with a win tonight. Edmonton takes a 3-1 lead into Game 5 at Dallas. Edmonton has won 3 games in a row while holding the Stars to only 2 goals. Defending Stanley Cup champion Florida is awaiting the Western winner after polishing off Carolina in Game 5 last night. What a series that will be. Oh, my God. It's like, I know, is Dallas going to put up any fight? They did open with home ice. I thought they should be the better team. Everybody's saying Dallas is Edmonton's on a mission and Florida won't be able to handle them. Sure. Very interesting football note here today. And Brent from Wellington, Florida, if you're still still watching. Former professional players Anthony Auclair and Michael O'Connor have earned roster spots on Canada's national men's flag football team. The two were among 12 players named to the squad following Canada's identification camp. Canada will be looking to qualify for the 28 Olympic Summer Games in LA, where flag football is making its Olympic debut. The 6'6", 256-pound Auclair from Notre Dame de Pain, Quebec, retired last year after spending time as a tight end in the NFL's Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Houston Texans, and Tennessee Titans. Meanwhile, the 6'4", 230-pound O'Connor led the University of British Columbia to a Vanier Cup title back in 2015. The Ottawa product was selected in the 3rd round of the 2019 CFL draft by the Argos. He also spent time with the Calgary Stampeders and BC Lions. Had a chat this morning with a guy, my 12-step sponsor, Bob, whose niece is reportedly like the top 15-year-old female flag football player in the province. Everybody's getting excited now about flag football. You're realizing now an NFLer like Anthony Auclair named. And to be honest, I was sitting there when we were first dropped, the pro players being eligible for the Olympics and how would you go about a roster. I was sitting there thinking, you're going to have to get retired CFLers, retired Canadian players, because they could have played in the NFL, but recently retired. They're still in pretty good shape, but I still don't think you're going to get current CFLers. I don't. But dang nabbit, is it going to be fun to watch and unbelievably competitive. And we were on this train 3 years ago. Darren, Serena, and I. Brenton says, is that taco time sauce on that bunny hug? Not yet. Maybe later today. Oh, there he is, Ryan from upstate New York. He says, what a time to be alive indeed, Rod. Have a great Thursday, everyone. What all do we have here? Carlos in Indianapolis, looking forward to carrying all the football talk on to Football Friday. I can tell you right now, it's going to be a fun poll question tomorrow. What's the game of the night for CFL preseason game? Can we vote for none? It is the exhibition, but we'll be talking about what to look for in those games. Freddie in Winnipeg writes that he says, "Hey, Rod, good show and interview again. I apologize for not watching your show every day, but life happens sometimes, and I have to show up for them as well. Have a great Saskatchewan day." Thank you, Freddie. We appreciate you showing up at all. I would not admonish anyone for not watching every day. My favorite two shows that I listen to, part of my listening every day, are Pro Football Talks, Mike Florio and Chris Sims. I haven't listened to them all week. Life happened. I was traveling. It's been busy. And also NHL Radio, and I haven't listened to them either. So I did listen to Howard Stern yesterday on the flight up here because they got Wi-Fi now. Did you know that? Oh, it's awesome. Howard Stern's canceling his trip to Italy because the baby wipes that he uses won't fit in the sewage system in Italy. He's like, I'm out. I laughed so hard. Everybody on the plane was like, what is wrong with that guy? And how about this? This couple in front of me, the seats in front of me, we're just taking off out of Toronto. Where were we going to? Florida to Toronto. And they start watching a movie. I'm like, no, with the headphones out. No. I leaned over. I had headphones. I'm like, do you guys need headphones? And she's like, oh, I guess it's kind of loud. Like, I'm not listening this whole flight to your movie. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody. It's been fun. Thanks to AJ. Thanks to Moose and Taylor Shire. We'll do it all again tomorrow on TV, noon Eastern, right here.
Now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?